Welcome everyone to another episode of Reversing Glass. I'm Matt Rose, Field CISO at ReversingLabs. Today's episode is all about the CISA Secure by Design, Secure by Default document that was recently published. It's a very comprehensive document talking about approaches to making sure that application or software developers are actually designing and implementing the correct checks when building software or applications. And there's a ton of different stakeholders from around the world that have taken part in this. The interesting thing is, reading through this multiple times now, there's not a ton of new information in here. These are things that organizations had to be doing over many years. I've been in application security 20 years, and they specifically call out that you should do SAST and DAST testing. Guess what? I've been working with SAST and DAST for 20 years, so that's not really a new thing you're supposed to do. They are calling out as an important thing to do, but they're also calling out a bunch of other areas that are very important that need to actually evolve for modern development programs. So they do mention threat modeling as being very important, but the question I have with this is, how do you threat model in a modern CI/CD process? The code is constantly changing. Typically, in a waterfall environment, threat modeling started in the inception phase, the design phase, to threat model. But ongoing threat modeling is very difficult to do with the aggressive release cycles of software. They also, memory safe languages. Java or something like that, something that's a memory safe language. Great suggestion, but again, nothing really too new and earth-shattering. Some other areas that we talk about in this is more on the business side, where CISA is recommending that you take a security approach first and foremost, which is very important, but again, they say that you should do security instead of new features and functions. And these features and functions are very important to the organization to generate more money. So that is a trade-off that is a great suggestion, but in practice, I see it a little complicated to implement, because you're going to tell your CEO, your stakeholders, your board that, hey, we're not going to release that new revenue-generating feature or release of the product because we're going to stop for security. I would love that to happen. That would be fantastic. It'll probably make my life so much easier to explain, but the fact is, they still got to generate money. To go backwards, that's a sticky situation. It's a chicken and the egg. You need revenue to do these things, but you need to do these things to secure the product to make sure customers are not responsible for the security of the product. The other thing that I find very interesting is we've talked a lot about secure by design, secure by default, also areas like SSO or multi-factor authentication. All of these things are very important for the security. And my passion these days is software supply chain security. If you read the article, software supply chain security is mentioned in the footnotes. In other articles talking about the SolarWinds breach or, software development practices associated with software supply chain security, they're not part of the article itself or the information or the steps that you should take. So thinking about that, is software supply chain a different discipline than secure by design and secured by default, or is it part of that? Because if I want to design a secure product, malware and questionable activities compromising my software supply chain are very important to me, just as important as the vulnerabilities identified by SAST, DAST, threat modeling, memory safe languages, single sign-on. Software supply chain security is just as important as these things, so they should be part of this document, not a side footnote and a link to an article at the end of the information that is provided. So thinking about that, great article to basically culminate a bunch of information together, combine it all together, let's make a cake. All the ingredients are there, but who is going to enforce this? These are all great suggestions, but again, there's no checks and balances. It's a highly suggested program to actually roll out all these things from the secure by design, secure by default document, but does not really address software supply chain security in my estimation, and there's no really guardrails or checks on somebody that's doing these things. They just say, do this, and I hope you do it. Well, not everybody does it, because again, there's the big monster in the room, or the elephant in the room is time. How long is it going to take to do these things? Is it going to derail my release process? Money, how much is this stuff going to cost? And people. One of the biggest things that are issues with cybersecurity is there's not enough people. So these things are all great in a perfect nirvana world, but you got to think about the company still has to make money. There's only so much time in the day. There's only so much money available to spend on this. And then there's only so many people to implement it. Again, I love the article. I think there's a great bit of information, but I think this is a starting point, not an ending point. Again, I'm Matt Rose. This is Reversing Glass. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and have a great day.